You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
A kiss, as defined by Dan Webster, is something pleasing, a caress, a gentle touch. But there's another kiss that isn't in Webster's.
Hey world, we're kids!
Some critics say they don't make music, they just make noise.
Yeah, Kiss sucks!
Kiss implies the extreme in the theatrics on stage, utilizing fire and smoke and bizarre costumes, and the ever-consistent, constant concealment of their true identities.
Speaking of which, Kiss is going to have its own comic book soon.
Take Kiss with you. It's fun. Show your friends and be the first. Now.
Oh my God, no time to turn!
Welcome once again to No Time to Turn, a Kiss nerd podcast.
Nerds. Yup.
We are tracking special episodes here. We're tracking the solo albums. This is episode B.
Yes. Hopefully you just listened to our Peter Criss episode right before this.
Episode A. I think we came up with some interesting points on the Peter record. I think maybe some people might be interested in revisiting it. But the Ace record, are we going to just dive right on in here?
Yeah, because we for people that are also just maybe decide to skip over the Peter episode, on episode we also went to the background of the original narrative of why they started doing the records, and then versus timeline and what that actually says, and the background of getting everyone together. So if you want to hear that, you got to check out the Peter episode.
These episodes we're trying to do abbreviated episodes, mini episodes. So let's just roll right into it here. We got the Ace Frehley and Eddie Kramer Dream Team.
Exactly. Yes. Arguably, probably the most Kiss sounding of the solo albums.
Yeah,
really?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, let's go ahead and hit there, because so far I've heard two things that I may want to argue with, which is one, arguably the best.
Well, that's why I say arguably.
Exactly. And then most Kiss sounding, and I hear that one a lot too.
Well, I think there's a reason for that.
What do you think the reason for that is?
Because it's Ace's guitar.
It's Ace's guitar, and it's Eddie Kramer producing.
Yeah.
And I'd argue that the Paul Stanley record is a very Kiss-sounding record, too.
I would say the Paul one, at least in my opinion, is more Kiss-sounding, because Ace's record, for better or worse, has a lot of effects on it. There's a lot of drum shit going on. There's a lot of swirly guitars. And honestly, if we're pairing it up against Kiss records, we don't hear that a lot from them. I mean, we'd hear swirly drums on like Peter's drum solo on a live record. And then we'd hear, weird guitar stuff from Ace on like Love 'Em, Leave 'Em.
Or Almost Human. Almost Famous.
Yeah. But it was still kind of few far and in between, where almost every song on this record has some sort of guitar or drum effect.
Because it's Ace's now.
Exactly.
But I think overall just a vibe feeling. It's very much, but that's Ace. Ace isn't going to do anything really left field, because Ace is Ace, and he's going to,
He is his own corner.
And this is the most solo, really, of the 4 solo albums. And this is primarily Ace and Anton Fig. And
it's like if Peter's record was a vocal record, this is a guitar record. This is
a guitar record. That's a good point.
And this was just recorded over at his house in Connecticut at the time, right?
It wasn't his house. It's recorded at the Colgate Mansion. Yes. That Colgate.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that. I figured that was just one of those weird name
and
things.
It was, at the time, it was owned by a songwriter and producer named Paul Leka.
Okay.
And he was the writer of Green Tambourine.
Oh, okay.
And Na 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 Na, Kiss 'Em Goodbye. Na 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 Na. So, I mean, I guess that guy had the money and the means to own this mansion, and was involved in production, and I guess he also owned a studio up there, but somehow they talked their way into this mansion, which I guess was used on some other records too. I couldn't find much information past that. I was looking, but I didn't write it down if I did.
Yeah, even on Wikipedia, it's not like clickable to see like an expanded thing on it.
But again, it's mostly Ace solo
with the bass parts and all the extra guitar parts, acoustic and everything.
He brought in a bass player named Will Lee, who also with Anton Fig would become part of the Late Night with David Letterman group.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
that's one of those things where it's like you would watch that show and be like, there's half of Ace's solo band up on stage.
Yeah.
Anton Fig just murders on this record too.
I've got that written on my notes. He kills on the drum tracks.
And I think that Ace's record is the one that has the least amount of musicians.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I say it's the most solo of the records. This is truly a solo effort. I mean, it's pretty much...
the only song he doesn't play bass on is Ozone, I'm in Need of Love, and Wiped Out.
Yeah.
It's like Ace plays bass on the rest of that. There's no other guitar credits at all. It is only Ace on guitar.
And this is probably like a situation where he's probably at his most comfortable too, working with Eddie Kramer
that's why I call it the dream team. I mean, I think these two guys really were a creative force to be reckoned with, and this album proves it.
I still think Eddie Kramer was one of the best producers for Kiss.
But then Eddie Kramer and Ace Frehley also made Frehley's Comet, and that disproves that theory. But in this moment...
We're eventually going to have to do No Time to Turn side stories where we go through like the Peter and Ace 80s material.
No, I don't think we need to do that.
We don't want to do Chris.
No. But this album, this is Ace Frehley's peak. This is as good as he was ever going to be. It's as good as he's ever been. And
Absolutely.
It's as good as, it was as good as he has ever been to this point, and it's as good as he's ever been since then.
I'd agree with
this
that.
album. I have played stuff off of this album to people that claim to hate Kiss, and I play it to them cold without telling them who it is or any of the association. And every time they're like, "Whoa, yeah, this is cool. What is this?" Mm-hmm. You can play this album cold to these people. This is for Kiss fans, this is like a no-brainer. This is like the essential solo album for most Kiss fans.
For me, man, it comes in a close second.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just saying.
And I want to
I'm
explain
speaking
why.
in generalized terms right now, because the point I'm making is that outside of Kiss fans, this remains to me like one of the great lost, overlooked 70s hard rock albums.
Absolutely.
And to me, it's like, this is like essential. If you're not a Kiss fan, you're still going to probably like this record.
Oh, absolutely.
Probably more than a lot of Kiss albums.
Well, you say it's the most Kiss-like. Yeah, but we're saying that in that it's a direct, straightforward guitar rock album. Mm-hmm. That's what you mean when you say it's more like Kiss. Whereas like Peter's, like we talked about, it's an R&B record.
Yeah.
And Gene's is like Bad Alice Cooper. No, I love Gene's record. I really do. We'll talk about that.
But you're not wrong.
And for me, the reason why this is and this actually used to be my number one for years, because for every reason y'all just mentioned, just awesome guitar rocks, great riffs, just Ace all over the place. It's just fantastic. The more I started listening to Paul's record, which we'll talk about in an episode or two, I felt like Ace's record was again like Peter's, where it was a vibe. You listen to it front to back, and it almost tells a guitar story. It's like you almost have to consume this record front to back.
And you also know what Paul's record has that Ace doesn't.
Well, with Paul's record, it feels like he had more catchy songs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that and Paul's a great singer. And
so it's like
Ace
with Paul, you had more sing-alongs and catchy songs and songs that you would catch yourself singing. With Ace material, you would catch yourself humming the guitar parts. You'd walk around the house. Dun, 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 dun,
Well,
dun,
let's
dun,
dive
dun,
into
dun.
this here. Let's start right out. Rip It Out.
One of the best openers.
It's a great opening
Period.
song. It's got the big power chords up front. It's
and it's just in your face.
It's just in your
Cap
face.
was even rocking that one earlier when we were getting ready to record.
But it's not in your face in the way like Black Sabbath would be in your face with like Symptom of the Universe or something.
Like Hole in the Sky. Yeah, like
Hole in the
Sabotage
Sky.
is.
And I love that stuff. But Ace, this is really...
It's so big sounding.
It's big sounding, and it's straightforward, direct, just hard rock.
Good vocal from him too, because we were kind of saying earlier he's not that great of a vocalist.
And he knows he isn't. But he's they're getting good vocals all across this album on this. This also comes out of the gate going, look at this drummer. To the point where it breaks down and gives him not a drum solo,
those breaks,
but those drum breaks right before you go into the solo, and that's like
absolutely
that's
skull
really
crushing.
Yeah, and it's like that's really again, it's almost a defiant statement to go, all right, here's what I can do. And so whereas Peter's, we talked about his opening track seems kind of felt a little meh and benign. Ace is coming out, and it's not like a screaming song, but it's just like very confident.
And you know what? Looking through it through that lens, if you look at the way the song builds up to that point, we've not even heard Ace rip yet.
Yeah,
and he's going to because he's such a good guitarist, and he's almost going. You'll hear me in a second. I'm also working with this fucking badass drummer.
And it's cool. And what's also interesting is one of the little trivia notes about those breaks at right before it goes into the solo. Those are double tracked.
Really?
He does it, and he went back and recorded it again.
He's just that good.
He's just that good. Yeah.
Wow. God
double tracked all that stuff.
And that's why it just sounds so huge and monstrous. Huge.
Yeah. And and that guy is just so beastly. It's just like, and you go, whatever happened to him, and he played David Letterman, Dan.
Yeah.
That's a great gig. I'm sure he made a shit ton of money and didn't have to work hard.
No, just didn't have to leave New York.
He was
plays
also
fucking 6 bars every night.
He played in this like kind of dance rock band called Spider, and it's like, I'm just like,
he wasn't even full time in Frehley's Comet.
It's like, man, you're a fucking great drummer, and that's what you've chosen to do.
It's
and
pretty
this
gig.
album, this combination, feels more like I guess because it's largely Ace alone with a drummer, they've had, it allows, it removes links in the chain to allow that to gel, and it gels really fast, and it feels very
when you only have to deal with one other person
for years.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like, where again, Peter's album, it was all session guys, and those guys had all played with each other in different configurations before in the past, and that's probably, part of what makes that success in the delivery, but they don't cook.
Right, like this group
cooks.
does.
Yeah.
This cooks more than any of the solo albums.
Now,
and I think
why
that's
they
why
didn't
this
make
one
Rip
pops.
It Out a Kiss song after the fact, I don't know.
I don't know
because
either.
this is seriously one of the best songs on the record.
We're probably bogging down in this.
But it is one of the best records.
Man, this record just rules. Speeding Back to My Baby.
Interesting co-write.
Is it a co-write with
Jeanette Frehley?
Yeah. Well, I think
do we know the reasons on that?
I don't.
Maybe she just needed some money. We'll give you some income with.
So do we want to get into the hearsay about the family and why this could have gone down because of her connections with the mob and shit?
I don't know.
Because I heard that was like a situation where through constant publishing and licensing that would be a constant source of income for the family and shit like that.
Yeah, well,
and it's a bit of an apology song, which was also kind of rumored to keep himself out of trouble.
Right. But who knows?
Because isn't the thing they're technically still married? They weren't allowed to divorce?
I don't know. I have no idea. I thought they were divorced now.
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure.
Again, this is all hearsay. I don't know. It's those are those weird little urban legends that kind of get passed around with it all.
There was a certain kind of, weird. I don't know what the word would be. Back in the day when we were kids, and you knew that he had a wife named Jeanette, or I don't know if it's pronounced Jeanette or Johnette.
Jeanette. I've heard him pronounce it.
But but both him and then Peter was married to Lydia, and it's like they had married their high school not high school, but
close enough, yeah.
There was a bit of a kind of a romanticized kind of whatever to that. So all that seemed like it all fit into place at the time. It was like all the pieces fit.
Part of the packaging,
it was all part of the big picture. But this song, that opening riff right at the front, man,
it's so twisty and weird.
But it's so fucking Les Paul,
right?
That
the
is
low part and the high part blending together.
You know what it reminds me of? his
well, that's one of his, because the way he plays. I mean, Ace,
that's one of the 10 licks he knows how to play.
I was gonna say he's only got like a handful of those licks but he manipulates them so well. You know, it's like the old joke that Lemmy made of Motorhead. It's like, we only know 3 chords, but we arrange them pretty well.
Yeah.
You don't. And the thing that's what's so great about Ace. Everyone talk about, you could say those are his limitations, but to me, you know, to have, you know, he's got his color palette that he works off of, and he's not going to mix them too much, you know, but he knows what he can mix and he knows what he can get out of it. And it's like, you know what, I'm not going to turn the page and go, you know, I'm not going to be using pastels. I'm not using, it's just all bright primary color. You know what I mean? And it works for him and that's what makes Ace so fucking great. He's Ace fucking Frehley. And this, that opening riff right there just says, I'm Ace fucking Frehley. Yeah. What?
Absolutely.
Then we get that.
And then it's an interesting little chunky.
If you can do it, that's good enough, man.
Then he almost gives us like a rockabilly 60s garage rock kind of.
And those little like cymbal like hits that Anton Fig does in the verses. I love that.
They went out of their way to find her. Her name was Susan Collins.
Yes.
And she's on like Rundgren's Hello, It's Me. And she sings back up on some ELO stuff like Evil Woman and Strange Magic. And, you know, and they knew they wanted her voice, and they recruited her specifically to come in and do that. So she's the speeding back, you know, all that.
And
look, I just sang on this show.
And you know what? I only found out, I would say maybe a couple years ago, that it was her. Mm-hmm. You know who I thought it was?
Jeanette.
Yeah.
When we were little kids, we thought that too.
Yeah. I honestly thought that was Jeanette because it made so much sense. And I knew that she was a co-writer.
I like that we're saying Jeanette like we know her.
Right. Well, we already said Jeanette Frehley.
Yeah, I know. But it's just like,
fucking Jeanette.
You know, Jeanette. Fucking Jeanette, man.
Then we got a backwards guitar solo in the middle of it, too.
Yeah, that's a pretty neat little twist. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that he and Eddie Kramer would probably sit down and do and work out and figure out together.
Like, all right, let's do this shit.
I'll say Eddie Kramer's
whatever inspiration, and then since you said it, next track.
So Eddie Kramer's been doing that since the Jimi Hendrix days.
Yeah,
that's why I let it.
Yeah, next track, Snowblind.
Yep.
I love the riff, but the vocal kind of puts it close to the bottom 3 for me.
You know, when I was a little kid, this was my favorite song on the record.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know, and I didn't know what it was about, but I just like the way he does the kind of the bend in his vocal, and you know, that tempo change on the solo.
That is cool.
It just comes out of left field, and you got this, and it's all like a whole different song. I love
that too. It's like I don't want to put it on my bottom 3 because of that.
Yeah, but that just shows how, you know, clever, inventive he is with what he's doing. And, you know, I think that you wouldn't hear something like that kind of a tempo change, or that whole kind of that. You know, you don't hear that kind of stuff in music today.
No, Anton Fig does it all over this record too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's written
right.
You know,
but he's good enough.
He goes into this. It's like a complete different, almost like it's a part of another song that gets dropped in, and but it builds. You know, and it gets up as the one part builds up. He's descending on the lead. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You know, one part's going up, the other one comes down. It's all angular, and then whop whop. Back into the riff. It's fucking cool. I mean, that is some really cool stuff. And it's like, it's nothing complex. It's not prog rock. It doesn't need to be. And it's still fucking killer. You know? And it just, again.
It's hard to do that. Bands don't do that. To like kind of take chances like that arrangement wise. But people want to call that, you know, like you said, prog rock or whatever. No, that's just great.
This is just good songwriting.
Yeah. And see, and this is the starting moments of why this record falls in second for me, is I agree with everything you guys just said, but you're talking about the music of it. I'm trying to look at this as a song as a whole. And the song as a whole, when you add in the music, like the lyrics and everything else, this is when it starts falling short, because there are so many songs that I can say, oh my God, I love the music too, but the vocalist ruins it. Unfortunately, Ace's delivery on this song and the next one vocally kind of knock the songs out of play a little bit more for me.
I totally agree with you on that too, but it's such a badass fucking riff.
It is. It's such a great riff, but I think that's where
See,
musical growth or maturity with me is gone, where it's like I now take things like vocalists more into consideration. It's just like, Ace, you could have done more.
Though. I like what he's doing with the bend,
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I don't know, but just
it's
for like if I have to compare the four.
Sometimes I wonder, you know what I mean? That kind of goes, I like
and
all
I
that
think
stuff.
there's some chances he takes vocally later on in this record that really pay off.
I don't think he needs to take chances with his vocals. I think the vocals I
would say the Hua is a chance.
There's a good chance or a good point where we were talking about Peter's album being really a showcase for his vocals. It was designed that way. It wasn't about Peter Criss as a drummer at all. It was about Peter Criss as a vocalist. Well, this is the other way around. It's about Ace as a guitar player and less as a vocalist. Ace is singing because it's the Ace album.
Yeah.
And I think that at some point they actually considered having ringers come in and do vocals. But I don't know who or to how deep or what degree that was ever considered. But by then, because Ace had only recorded one vocal track prior to this. So this is really, this is still kind of Ace finding his own.
And Rocket Ride. I guess he had just done that too.
But he's still literally finding his voice here. Mm-hmm. But, his voice is primarily his guitar. Ozone.
And that's another stinker of a vocal performance, but I love the background. Ozone. I don't know why I like it, but I do.
I don't have a problem with any of the vocals on this album. I really don't.
This is my least favorite song on here. Like, I consistently skip this song.
Oh, I love this song. And I like, there's that turnaround where he's doing the ba-da, ba-da, ba-da,
and see,
then
that's
he flips
cool.
But it's a weird flip on it.
But if we're talking,
and then it resolves itself. The way he resolves it. Right?
But if we're talking about lyrics, let's talk about these lyrical genius. I'm the kind of guy
who likes getting
high.
But that's
feeling high is right.
That's fine.
There's and you think you ought to try.
Yeah, that's some trash.
That's some blue jean fucking Boone's Farm swilling, oily hair, pimply face, high school guy in a Mustang, and he is that guy. There's nothing wrong with that.
Hell yeah, brother.
That is high school as fuck. And I don't have a problem with it. Not at all. I love this whole song. And I never did drugs, man. But I was like, if I did, I would be that guy. And that's the song that would be playing.
I will say, get stoned off your ass, listen to it. It'd be fun.
I love this song. I like the way the guitars resolve. I like all that stuff. I think just the way he puts it all together.
Now look, I agree with you there. I love all the guitar shit in there. But just the lyrics and vocal delivery just ruin it for me.
See, when I think of quote unquote stoner rock, I don't think of Black Sabbath. I don't think of heavy. I think
this is fucking stoner rock.
This is stoner rock because I knew these dudes.
Yeah,
these were like the guys that my brother hung out with. My brother got adopted by these guys when he was like 12 or 13, which would have been around this time. He was like their little mascot. But these guys drove around in the fucking vans and the big
El Caminos.
El Caminos and GTOs, and they were those guys who are like, hell yeah, man, and you're just like, oh man, these guys are badass. They're probably big fucking losers. It
you
doesn't
walk around them and
matter.
it's like just in the background you hear
and you know what? Yeah, they were all. I promise you, they were all to a man and their girlfriends in the ozone. No question.
And again, I 100% agree. I love the way the guitars resolve it, like that part you're talking about. All of that is fantastic, and there is not a bad Ace solo on this record. He kills every song.
Everything works here, but I'm just saying the whole construction of how he does those little turnarounds and stuff, and flips that kind of there's punctuations in the riff. Or whatever. I'm not going to say if we were professional, we would drop in sound bites here, but
we also don't want to get nabbed.
Yeah, whatever. But y'all go back and listen to this and tell me that I'm wrong.
And that also helps them. We're pushing them towards Spotify listens instead of actually putting it on here. We're helping them. Wink, wink.
Right.
What's fun about these solo records is pointing out how terrible that all these guys were as lyricists.
Well, I don't think these are terrible lyrics. I think they serve exactly what he's going to say. And here and this is what's interesting about this record is now all of a sudden he's shifting gears and he's going into really essentially almost a power pop song.
And dude, in retrospect, this is my favorite on the record.
It's a great goddamn song. And I tell you what else makes this song really great is Anton Fig.
Yep.
And the way he does those, he punctuates the in the chorus, it's almost an off time kind of thing. Bop, bop, it's like you can tap along with a lot of stuff on your steering wheel or on your dashboard or wherever you're tapping along on your desk at work. I can't fucking play along with that. That's some weird shit, man. And I love the way changes, and it's fucking killer.
And much like Ozone too, the way the acoustic guitars are blended together with everything
that's
too
one of
are
my
so
favorites.
fucking cool.
That's one of Ace's tricks he likes doing is blending acoustics with his electrics, and I love it because you even get a little bit on "Rip It Out."
Yeah,
you hear it ever so slightly,
but
and it sounds so
just got
good.
a brightness underneath it, gives it a little sheen.
And we would be absolutely lying if we said we didn't totally rip that for one of our last records because there was like a song that was just like it sounded really good if we added just a little acoustic up underneath this, and it works.
Off, you were inspired by it,
exactly,
and that's part of what makes this stuff great. But I've got this in my notes as Power Pop Gold, and I don't think
agree with
you
that.
would. We were talking. You mentioned Nick Lowe, previously, and
so it goes,
and it's like that. That's Power Pop, but it's kind of this still isn't quite as far into that, if you want to call it a genre or whatever.
But it still has those elements like
but my point is, it's like Ace. It shows that it demonstrates that he has a pop sensibility that's very sharp, and he can do it credibly. And even again, vocals, y'all want to harp on the vocals?
Chorus?
The vocals really good.
I mean, my God, he kills that chorus. I love it.
To write a song like this. And I don't think this really even feels so much like a Kiss song, but, to me, this is one of maybe the high points on the album, maybe the strongest song on the album.
No, I totally agree.
Top 3 for me, without a doubt.
Great solo, and I love, if we're talking about like guitar building, I love how on the last chorus, because he, like most Kiss songs, play the chorus twice at the end, yada yada yada, and then on that final one, he does a little walk up with the wah 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 na na na. He's kind of playing his vocal harmony on the guitar, and then it ends with that big acoustic doom 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 boom.
Yeah,
it's like it's so well constructed. I love it.
I mean,
that's the genius of Eddie Kramer too.
I'm sure.
I don't know. I wonder, Eddie Kramer is more an engineer and sound guy. He's not a songwriter. He's not. So this is really the power of Ace Frehley as a songwriter. And I think that's something that really needs to be underscored here because, these are his songs. It's his construction. It's his arrangements. I'm sure.
Yeah, it says all tracks are written by Ace Frehley except where noted. And those are just like those small little things like Anton Fig and, shit like that.
I think he only gets like one credit. And then, the next one, New York Groove, was a cover.
Okay, we're going to say we're going to lift the needle, flip the record. Because that's what we do. We listen to vinyl.
That's right.
We're cool.
We're cool.
We're the cool kids.
Cool.
The only
that's an inside joke, and if who's listening gets it, cool. And it's Ace. New York Groove is a cover of a group called Hello.
Yes.
And that song was brought in by Eddie Kramer. I think it was his suggestion to do it. And Ace wasn't into it.
And this marks 2 times in Ace's career, well, now and then another time going to be way later, where producers have brought in covers for him to do that he's gone, nah. And then it winds up being his biggest hits of the era, which was New York Groove. And then later that happened with Do Ya.
Yeah.
He did not want to cover Do Ya, and then that's like what catapulted him back into stardom again.
Yeah, well,
there's no drums on this track, really, is there?
Yeah.
It's like stomp claps.
Yeah.
Like they're buried more than anything, if there are.
It's honestly stomps and a shaker. That's really all you get in it. And I remember hearing the story of the way they were able to get the stomps. They got a whole bunch of apple boxes, had people stand on it. Then Eddie put a microphone on the lower level. So they were doing it on like a certain floor. He put microphones on the ceiling underneath it.
Oh, underneath it. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like for instance, if we were recording upstairs, Cap would be on some Apple boxes right above the ceiling, and I would just put microphones on the ceiling.
Interesting.
And then he would
That's cool.
So they got the hollowness from the apple boxes and then the resonance from the floor and then captured that through the microphone.
How familiar are either of you with the original?
Not really familiar
I've
at all.
listened to it a couple times.
It's built, the riff is built largely around a harmonica on the original.
Okay.
So, and it's kind of got more of a, almost like a down on the corner CCR type thing.
It does.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, whereas this kind of goes along into almost into the territory of where Peter's record is, a very New York kind of thing. Obviously, New York groove.
Yeah.
You know, very urban, but and it's really, you know, it's interesting because this song to me kind of sticks out as being the anomaly amongst the others. It doesn't have the same vibe or feel as the others to me.
Yeah, for sure.
And like you said, it's ironic. Ace didn't like it, and yet it became basically his signature song. After Shock Me, I would say.
And the only song from all 4 solo albums to make it part of the Constant Kiss set.
Well, it's also the only hit that any of the solo albums produced. I think this was a top 20 hit.
Number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100
That's
singles.
nothing to fucking turn your nose up
I can remember
at.
hearing that when I was a kid. I remember, you know, when I was a kid, we'd go to the skating rink and they'd play it on the skating rink thing. And, you know, we had to skate when they played that.
Oh, of course.
Had to get out on the floor and just
bust your ass to New York groove.
I'm in need of love.
I like this one a good bit.
This is in my bottom 3, but I like the delay slide parts.
This is an early use of delay. I think. I don't. How early were these kind of effects coming into play?
Good question, because
to me, it's like this is probably state of the art shit at the time.
I would say like it was probably used on Jimi Hendrix records and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be wrong on that too.
I mean, you know, it still was pretty forward sounding, I would think, at the time.
See, to me, I'm in Need of Love is a better Snowblind. It feels like it's the same kind of vibe, but it's a little bit more.
He's pushing himself vocally a little bit,
and that's what I was gonna say. So you're talking about the weird vocal things on Ozone. I feel like the "I'm in need of love"
this might be
works a lot better on this.
He goes a little flat on it, but at the same time, I think it works just because it's it's rock and roll, man.
Yeah,
it's very Ace,
and so it's one of the better vocal performances I think he's gotten. But yeah,
I'm in need of love.
So give me some.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm hoping you're in need of me.
It's
poetry.
But you know what? I've always loved this song. That was one of my favorites when I was a little kid. And this kind of goes into again what I talked about with the Peter Criss album is that some of this stuff. It's like, would I like it if I was learning it today? If it was all new to me today,
and and that's hard with the Ace record with me too, because that was always my go-to.
I think I would definitely like What's on Your Mind. I think I definitely like Ozone. I think I would like most of this, but
I can't say anything. Like my first Guitar Hero was right up Ace Frehley's alley. Joe Walsh, she basically was just as crazy and wrote silly ass songs like that too.
Yeah, but his were a little more clever, I think.
That's a whole other podcast.
Well, here you go. For example, next song, Wiped Out.
I dig this one because it's so weird.
I do too.
I think this is the weirdest song on the record, riff wise and like drums.
Yeah,
and you even have like almost like the porno fucking like wah stuff during the verses. Like
he does that kind of modulation change or whatever you want to call
it. All the tempo changes.
There's another change on the lead part, which is it's like once he has that as a device to use. He's like, oh, well, we're going to do it again.
Yeah.
They're just playing with all the toys on this record.
It's still pretty clever, though.
It is.
And this isn't a throwaway track. But having said that, this is probably my least favorite track on the album.
And you know what? If we're talking about Peter's record kind of having country songs, this one's written like a country song. Take just the lyrics.
I know what you're saying.
And give it to Johnny Cash because it tells that he's almost telling a story throughout the whole thing, and it almost kind of gives you that went to a party just as cool could be. Talks about meeting a girl, then going down there, having to sit back down.
But you could also say it's almost like a early rap.
Ooh, there you go. That's another way to look at it.
And I wouldn't necessarily equate it that way, but I'm sure that probably. Even at that point, was sort of just kind of bubbling up on
Urban in New York.
I was going to say.
you know.
Or even Surf Rock at the very beginning of it with the drums and all that. He even kind of does like,
that's the
kind of thing
the
with
Wipeout thing, yeah. I think they were also trying to get his laugh. But that was a forced, that was kind of a forced thing. So they
even called that out on the Tom Snyder show.
Yeah, it wasn't a genuine laugh. But, you know,
I dig the song a lot. And it's co-written with Anton, which you can tell because it sounds like a guitar drum song. It sounds like Anton was like, write something around this.
I want to tell a story. I know this is in one of these tell-all books on Ace where they said that they would go and buy, I don't know if they were buying Romolar or some sort of cough syrup that had codeine in it back in the day, and it came in a glass bottle. And now this is Ace Frehley. He's a millionaire at this point, you know.
See, I know
he's still behaving like a kid. He goes into the drugstore, buys the cough syrup. They chug it down because they're going to get some cheap. This
like
is
a
a cheap
quarter of the
fucking
way,
teenage street high, right?
Yeah.
And they gulp this shit down, and they leave just enough in the bottom of it, and they smash it on the sidewalk and let it bleed into the paper bag, and they go back inside going, oh, we accidentally dropped it. Can we get another one? So they could get a free bottle.
Now,
and
see, I've
like,
heard that story, and I always heard that was mid-'80s, like right before he kicked back in Frehley's comment.
I'm just thinking of Anton and Ace behaving like fucking little hoodlums, and they've got the money and the means to do whatever they want, but what are they going to do? They're going to behave like fucking teenage thugs. And it's funny to me. There's something endearing about this quality that they're just still like, you know, you can take the boy out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the boy.
That's all over Ace's book. Their stories of their shenanigans.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I can see where that would wear like Gene and Paul out maybe, but at the same time, I mean, fucking Ace, man. He's Ace fucking Frehley. Let him be Ace. Stop crying all the goddamn time about, well, he wasn't improving as a musician. Fuck you. He's Ace fucking Frehley. Well, Shut the fuck up and just let him go be Ace Frehley and be happy that you have him.
Well, not improving as a musician, this final track on the record feels like the most progressive thing any four-member wrote.
Okay, I've got, you know, you said the P word.
Yep.
I've got that too. I said it's a prog effort that succeeds in spite of itself.
Yep.
To me, in the wrong hands, this could turn into something really pretentious, boring, and stupid. But in Ace's hands, it's so anomalous that, and no pun intended, Ace's anomaly. But I'm just saying he's done something here that's just a fraction beyond his grasp, and he pulls it off.
Yeah.
It's like shooting that 3-pointer, you know. The first guy that ever did it was probably like, oh, I can't believe I fucking did that, you know. It works.
It's so well orchestrated. It really builds so well, and like before you know it, all of a sudden you're hearing like 6 and 7 guitars with all these cool effects, and it's like you don't even know how you got there.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, like, I listened to that and I'm like, it sounds like early guitar synths, but I don't think that was even a thing then.
So I think some of it was actual synth.
They were using some sort of effect that was not common. You know, and it wasn't keyboard. I think it's
like
all
guitar synthesizer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's credited.
Yeah,
that's how it's credited on the album.
Okay, so I wonder what they used for that.
And then
I wonder if they just ran it through a standard synthesizer and just got the unique sound out of it, or what.
And you know what? If the legend to be true with how much Ace actually was into technology and just tinkering with things back then, I wouldn't be surprised if fucking he and Eddie just did a line and went, let's just connect some shit up together and get some weird sounds.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, you know, they were probably just like, wow,
what happens if we chain this and this and this together? What does this sound like?
This is cool, man.
Like, I could totally see them spending like 2 days in the studio just fucking around connecting weird shit just to see what happens.
There's no big drums on it either. It's just some guy playing on the rim of the snare or whatever.
This is not Anton Fig playing on this. This is a guy named Carl Tallarico. And I find that name interesting because Tallarico, there's only one other Tallarico that I'm familiar with, and that was a guy named Steve Tallarico, a.k.a. Steven Tyler.
Oh,
and I'm like,
okay.
I wonder if there's any relation there. But, you know, that's probably unlikely. You know, they say some parts of this was recorded with a double neck, and I read recently an interview where he claimed the double neck was a rare Gibson double neck, where I guess it was standard, and instead of a 12-string, I guess it had a mandolin neck.
I can see
left,
that.
Of course, you know, and I think, you know, this is pulled out of the book of Jimmy Page, where you leave the you know, you've got dual pickups. And you leave one set open, and it's just picking up the resonance of what you're playing on the other neck.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives it kind of an undertone that kind of changes.
Especially on like
it's just different, kind of a drone that has a tonality to it that you really can't pick up any, it's there, but it's like,
it's kind of buried maybe in spots like
pronounced,
maybe
but it's
ozone or fractured mirror or something.
It kind of gives it its own little hum. So overall, this is again arguably the best of the four, or at least it's the most popular of the four. In definitely a sense.
The best selling,
the hardest rocking.
It's still, I think, I'm not sure if Jeans ends up selling or peaking at a higher. I can't remember. I don't have that in front of me, but this one peaks on the charts at 26, but it does it in the spring of 79, a full 6 months after the album was released, whereas Peter's peaked 6 weeks after it was released.
Yeah.
So that's kind of curious. And I don't know where the timeline is where New York Groove got released as a single. Does it have you have any information on that?
Let's
I had that
see
pulled up. Let's
here.
Because I'm sure that had to have helped, because there was a moment where that seemed like it was just omnipresent. You heard that everywhere. And then, of course, it got a new lease on life in post 9/11 New York City. They used it in advertising to help drum up
it's like the album
tourism back to the city.
Yeah, the album
it says September 78.
Okay. Because the album itself went platinum in October.
Well, that's when the album was released.
Yeah, it says New York Groove Snowblind was released September 78.
I wonder where it peaked at.
Number 13.
What does it give a week?
Says it was released as a single, and the song made it to number 13 on the Billboard 100, by far the highest charting single from any of the four solo albums.
But it doesn't say when.
No.
Yeah. Well, but that's Ace, man, and it showed. Ace always said this was his signal that he was being held back. I disagree with that, because we'll find out in the upcoming albums that he's given a lot more leeway.
Absolutely.
And he still doesn't deliver anything as potent as this. He's never delivered anything as potent as this. This is his peak statement. This is the definitive statement of Ace Frehley. It is his peak moment. There's, I dare say there's not a bad song on this record.
He's still playing these songs and the Kiss songs on his current tours.
I mean, and it's all anyone really wants to hear.
Yeah.
No one wants to hear anything off Second Sighting.
No, and the thing is, I'm Frehley. I like Frehley's comment, and I'll still have to agree with that. There's nothing on Second Sighting.
Like no one goes sees Kiss hoping they're going to play anything off Crazy Nights.
We'll get there. We'll get there when we get to that episode. There's one song on there that I think is a lost gem.
I'm not saying that I'm just saying, but no one's going to a Kiss concert going, gee, I hope they play No, No, No.
Especially that song.
I'm sure there's that one nerd who's like, God damn, it'd be cool if they played No, No, No.
Not nervous, Chris Jericho.
But most fans, yeah, probably. But I'm just saying,
be cool.
No one cares about that shit. It's like Hot in the Shade had Forever on it. If Kiss never played Forever again, there ain't a single person in the audience that's going to walk away disappointed.
And they hadn't been lately, so.
Yeah, because I'm just, But again, Ace, though, this is his moment. It's a great fucking record, front to back. Like I said, if you're not a Kiss fan, this is something that you can introduce people, and they're probably going to like it. This is a great lost album of the 70s.
If you're a guitar nerd, it's just guitar porn for days.
Yeah, it's just a solid front to back, great rock and roll record. So I guess that's going to wrap up this mini episode, and hopefully you'll stick with us as we go keep charging on.
Charging on?
Next up is Gene Simmons, correct?
Yeah.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's going to be a fun one, because there's a lot to pick apart on that record. It's an interesting record. And hopefully you'll join us. So keep on with us for the next episode of No Time to Turn.
Thank you for listening. Please insert another coin by supporting the show for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/somethinggoodnetwork.